Hi, today we're going to take a look at trig ratios and using that to find missing side values. Now, before we do anything with trig ratios, we need to set up our rules. So we write down at the top of our page, Sakatoa. So this statement here tells us our rules. This tells us how we set up our fractions, how we set up our ratios. So let's get going with this first one. I have a missing hypotenuse, x. Now, from this vantage point, I'm standing at 5. I have two sides that are next to that angle 5. Well, only one of them is really called the adjacent side because across from the right angle is your longest side. That's always called your hypotenuse. Now, what's left that's next to that is your adjacent. So let's use that. If we stand at 5, we're going to say adjacent and hypotenuse, which is cosine. So we can say cosine of where we're standing, 5, equals adjacent, which is 100 over x. We created our situation, we created our problem. Now let's use our algebra. Let's solve this thing. So I'll turn that to a fraction and we can cross multiply. So I can say x times cosine of 5 equals 100. This cosine of 5 is one little number. It's a computer program that works for this specific situation, but it's a number. We don't know what it is yet. It's going to be a decimal, and I don't really care. Let's leave it cleaner in this form, and then we're going to move things around and solve. So from here, we can divide by that ugly number, cross them out, and we get it over here. We are left with x equals 100. When I punch this into the calculator, I'm going to end up getting cosine of 5 is going to be 0.996, I think it is. And then as we simplify that, x equals 100.38. So being that x is our hypotenuse, that has to be the longest side of our triangle. This is just a little bit longer than that, which is good. And that just makes sense because that's a really, really small angle. So there's that. Now, sometimes we have a triangle and we have two missing sides. So what that just means is we need to set these ratios up twice for whatever we are doing. Well, our vantage point is we're starting from here. We're starting from 60. That's where we're looking. Across from the right angle is always going to be our hypotenuse. Opposite our angle is called our opposite, and next to the angle is always called the adjacent. So now we need to pick two of these. We need to pick two things to work out, and I'm going to start with just these, opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent is tangent here. So I'm going to say tangent of where we're starting from, 60, equals now our fraction, opposite adjacent, x over 20. Okay, now we can turn that to a fraction, cross multiply, and see where that leads us. We have x equals 20 times the number tangent of 60. So tangent of 60 is just something that we have to plug into the calculator. And when we do, we're left with 1.732, something. And then we multiply that all the way through, and x equals 34.64. Great. We need to do this one more time, and we figured out what that is. We have to figure out what the hypotenuse is. Okay, so what are we left with? We have adjacent and hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse, if we come back over here, adjacent hypotenuse is always going to be cosine. So we set up a problem again. We say cosine, where are we starting from? We're starting from 60. Adjacent is 20. Hypotenuse is y. We have our ratio set up. Now let's cross multiply everything. So we have 20 equals y times cosine of 60. This is a number. It's an ugly number, but we're going to leave it there for right now. I want to divide by cosine of 60, cancel them out. Divide by cosine of 60. And now our y is all left alone. Y equals, now we just got to do some math. Cosine of 60 is going to be 0.5. So we're left with 20 over 0.5, which is y equals 40 when we do that math. And that is using trig ratios to find missing side values.